Assalamu alaikum lovelies. Welcome again to my channel. I'm Abiola Balikis. As you know, Ramadan is around the corner. I have decided that I'll be bringing you sewing tips and tutorials that will be useful for you during this period. So in today's tutorial, you'll be learning how to make kids abaya with hood. So this particular abaya has an inbuilt hood and hijab. If you're a returning viewer, I say thank you so much for always coming back to watch my videos, to support me. You see those thumbs up, they actually motivate me because that is what shows that you enjoy watching my videos. If this is your first time watching my video, kindly do well by subscribing to my channel because you see this small community, you are going to learn a lot from it. So you wouldn't want to miss out. Before we get started, you see these two fabrics I decided to use for this tutorial. They are so wrinkled. So the first thing I will do is to give them a good press with my iron. You know what? That is the first sewing tip I'll be giving you today. Always iron a wrinkled fabric before cutting on it. You know why? It gives you this joy of cutting, and most importantly, you will get an accurate measurement while cutting on it. See how beautiful my fabrics now look. So now we can now get started. To cut this kids abaya, you need the regular measurement for gowns. The wideness you will need for this abaya actually vary from one child to another. So you will measure from the back of the neck down to the elbow. Any measurement you get, you times it by 4 and add your seam allowance. So for this princess I'm sewing for, the measurement from the back of her neck to her elbow is 18 inches. So 18 inches times 4, that's 36 inches. Then I went ahead to add 2-inch seam allowance, making 38 inches. So the wideness I cut here is 38 inches. Then a gown length is 41 inches, so I went ahead to add 2 inches to it. So now I'll be folding the wideness, which is 38 inches, into 2. Then I'll fold it back again into 2, making 4 folds. So in order not to get confused while cutting, this is how the abaya we want to cut. This is how it looks like. It has a scalloped edge after the sleeve. So this is the front and back like this. Then when we fold it into 2, it looks this way. So this is exactly what we'll be cutting out on this fabric. So from this point, which is the center, front and back, I will measure 5 inches for the neck wideness. So this is for a 7-year-old princess. If you are sewing for a child lesser than that, I will advise you use between 4 to 4.5 inches. Then the depth, I will use 2 inches. So I'll use my French curve to connect these points together. If you don't have a French curve, you can use your free hand to connect. One thing you notice about our shoulder slope is that it is not completely straight. So instead of me cutting this abaya straight on the shoulder this way, I will shape it in a little. So for this particular abaya, I'll be shaping in it by 2 inches. So from the edge, I'll measure 2 inches down. I'll chalk it. Then I'll connect that point to the tip of the neck. From that point, I'm now going to measure the elbow circumference of the measurement I'm working with. So the elbow circumference is 10 inches divided by 2, that's 5 inches. Then I added 1 inch seam allowance, making 6 inches. So I will mark that point. And now we are going to work on the down part of the abaya. So from the edge of the abaya, I will measure, this is the down part now, I will measure 15 inches up. So what I'm trying to do is that the wideness of the abaya on the down part, I don't want it to be as wide as what we have on the upper part. The circumference I want for the down part of the abaya is 48 inches. And because this fabric is presently on 4 folds, I will divide 48 inches by 2. That is 12 inches. Then I will go ahead to add just half inch seam allowance. That's 12 and a half. So from the down part to that 15 inches, I'll measure 12.5 inches. Then I'll go ahead to connect with my ruler. Now we'll be working on the scalloped part of the abaya. So from the tip of the elbow circumference to where the 15 inches we measure from the down part of the abaya stops, we are going to measure it and locate the midpoint. So when I measure, I have 19 and a half. So 19 and a half divided by 2, that's 9 3/4. So I'll mark that point where the 9 3/4 is. Then I'll go back to the tip of where the 15 inches stops. I'll measure what I have from that spot to the edge of the fabric on the side. So I have 6 inches. Then this 6 inches, I'll divide it by 3. That will be 2 inches. It means that each scallop will be shaped with 2 inches. So I'll measure 2 inches outward this way. Then I'll use my ruler to connect the points. And from that spot where the 2 inches end, I'm going to connect it with that midpoint that I located the other time. Now from that spot also, I'll measure 2 inches outward, then connect with my ruler. And from that point, I'm going to make a straight line down to where the elbow circumference stops. Then I'll connect it outward down to the tip of the fabric. So after that, I'm going to cut this fabric out so that you can see what we just did. So after cutting, this is what we have. You can see it looks so similar to the sketch I showed you earlier. Now before we leave this aside, I'm going to measure what we have on the neck circumference. So here I have 6 inches. And remember the fabric is presently on 4 folds. So 6 times 4, that is 24 inches. So I have 24 inches for the neck circumference. Now we are going to cut the hood. So I'll fold my fabric into 2. Then because the edge of this fabric is not totally straight, I'll use my ruler to draw a straight line first. Then I'll take my measurement from that spot. So the length I want for the hood is 14.5 inches and I want the wideness of 12 inches. So this is the face circumference. This down part is where we attach to the abaya. That is the back and the upper part is the head of the hood. After taking the measurement, I'm going to shape the back of the head a little with my French curve. You can actually do this with your free hand. Then I will cut out. After that, we'll come to this corner. This corner is the intersection between the face circumference and the part we'll be joining to the abaya. So I'll measure 3/4 and I'll shape it like this. 3/4 up and 3/4 to the side. Then I'll shape it. So this is what we use to create the hole for our hoodie rope. You might not totally understand now, but just keep watching. You will understand better when we start sewing it. Now let's cut the hijab. So I already went ahead to fold my fabric into 2, as you can see. Then I will use my ruler to draw a straight line because this edge is not also straight and I want to get an accurate measurement. I'll draw a straight line. Then I'll start my measurement from that spot. So the measurement I'll be using for the hijab is 17 inches. So this part I'm starting the measurement from is the front part of the hijab. I will measure 17 inches down to the back part of the hijab. Then I'll connect the markings and I'll cut out. Then I'll go ahead to measure the face circumference. The face circumference I'm working with is 21 inches divided by 2, that's 10.5 inches. Then I added half inch seam allowance. So I'll mark it. Then don't forget that the abaya, the other time we measured the neck circumference, which was 24 inches. So I divided 24 inches by 2, that's 12 inches. And I'm going to mark where that 12 inches stops from the back of the hijab. So if I decide to connect these 12 inches to the face circumference, what we have here will be too small to enter the head of the princess. So I will be adding 10 inches to the wideness of the circumference. So 10 inches divided by 2, that's 5 inches. So I'll mark the 5 inches now. Then it is from this point I'll connect to the face circumference with my ruler. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out. After cutting, this is what it looks like. This is the face circumference. This is the front part. This is the part we are going to join to our abaya. And the folded part is our back. So I'm just going to notch this part because this is where we are going to fix the front cap. Now I'll cut the hijab cap using the printed fabric. So I'll fold my fabric into two, then fold it again into two, making 4 folds. Then for the wideness, I'll measure 6.5 inches. And for the length of the cap, I'll measure 4.5 inches. So I'll go ahead to connect these 2 points in a slight curve. Then I'll go ahead to notch the center and set aside. So the last thing we are now going to work on is the sleeve of our abaya. So presently my fabric is on 4 folds because I will be cutting the 2 sleeves together. The actual length I want for the sleeve is 8 inches. Then I went ahead to add 2.5 inches for the seam allowance, half inch for the part I will be joining to the abaya, and 2 inches for the hem of the edge of the sleeve. I forgot we still have a last thing to cut, which is the rope for our hood. So for the length of the rope, I'll be using 40 inches. You can use between 40 inches to 45 inches. Then for the wideness, depending on how thick or how light your fabric is, you can use between 1.5 to 2 inches. Now let's move to the part B of our tutorial, which is the sewing aspect. So to start sewing, I will sew the shoulder like this. Then come to the tip of the elbow circumference and I will sew through the scallop, then down to the edge of the fabric. So I'll do the same thing to the other side also, and I'm going to show you the result afterwards. So after sewing, I made sure I weave all the raw edges and I gave my abaya a good press, and this is what I have. So now we are going to work on the hood. So the first thing I'll do is to sew from this side down to the down part. So after that, we are going to weave this part here. And if you can't weave, you can just neatly sew it. So I've done that here. So now we'll go ahead to hem the face circumference. We are going to hem it in a way that it will accommodate the rope we want to fix in it later. After doing that, we are going to fix it on our abaya. And to do that, we'll fold our abaya into two and notch the center front and center back. Then we'll place the center back of the hood on the center of the side which we choose to be our back and use our pin to hold down. If you notice my wrist pin holder and you would love to make one for yourself, you can actually watch how I made it from my previous videos. So after pinning down, I'm going to go ahead to my machine to sew it round. After sewing, this is what I have. So now we'll go ahead to work on the hijab. So for the hijab, I'll open it up, open the front cap also, and place the notching on both sides on each other, pin them together and sew on my machine. After attaching the front cap to the hijab, I'll go ahead to weave the raw edges. After weaving, I'll go ahead to hem the remaining part of the face circumference. So I'll just neatly hem it this way and do the same thing to the other side. After hemming, this is what I have. So now I'll bring the face circumference together and I'll sew it down to the edge of the fabric. After sewing, I went ahead to weave that part also, and now we are going to fix it to our abaya. Before we do that, I'll try and locate the center back of the hijab and notch it. Then after notching, I'll turn my abaya into the negative side this way. Then place this of the abaya. After notching the hijab, I'll turn my abaya into the negative side like this. Then I'll place the center front of the hijab on the center front of the abaya, making sure that the positive side of both are facing each other. Then I'll pin down. Then also the center back of the hijab also, I'll pin it down on the center back of the abaya. After that, we'll try to locate the midpoint between the center front and the center back of the hijab. Once we locate it, we'll notch it and pin it down on the shoulder of our abaya. The reason why we are doing this is just to make sure that the excess on the hijab is evenly divided on the neck circumference of the abaya. Once we have done this, we can now go ahead to sew it round on our machine. After sewing round, I went ahead to weave the neck circumference, and this is what I have. So what I'm going to do now is to fix a rope inside the hood. To insert the rope in the hood, I'll put my safety pin on one edge of the rope and push it in through one of the holes in the hood, move it in the other hole. Once I'm done with this, I'll safely remove the safety pin, then knot the edge of the rope. So if you have big beads, you can actually put one on each edge before you knot the rope. Now this is what we have. So the last thing we are going to work on now is the sleeve of our abaya. Now to make the sleeve, I already went ahead to hem the edge of the sleeve. So what I did was that I placed 2 on it, and the distance between the 2 will be enough to accommodate my small elastic. So now I'll use my safety pin to pass the elastic through this hole that we have. After putting the elastic through the hole, this is what I have. So now I'm going to fold the positive side of the sleeve into two. Then I will sew down and also weave that edge. After doing that, I will fix this part on the elbow circumference of the abaya. Then I will go ahead to weave the elbow circumference also. After that, I'll properly iron press my abaya, and we are going to have this beautiful and neatly sewed abaya. With this, we have come to an end of this tutorial. If you find this tutorial beneficial, kindly give me a thumbs up. And if you are yet to subscribe to my channel at this point, this is the right time to do so. Also, is there anything you would love me to make a tutorial on? You can leave the suggestion in the comment section. If I have the resources, inshallah, I will make them in my subsequent videos. Thank you so much for staying with me to the end of this tutorial. See you in my next video. Bye.